Hi guys, I'm going to start here in about 7 or 8 minutes. We'll give the folks some time to get on. Can anybody see the screen? Not sure if this is working, guys. I'm trying to see if my screen is there. Give me 1 second here. I'm gonna. Can you guys hear me through there? Anybody? Microphones are turned on. If you can hear me, I'm trying to fix that problem with the mute. Give me 1 second. All right, you guys can hear me? All right, I think I got the microphones unmuted here. Now, let me just see if I can share the screen. We'll get started here in a minute. Just going to give it a few more minutes for give other folks a chance to get here. Can you hear me now, Drew? Can you guys hear me still? Getting a thumbs up.
Can hear you just fine.
Ah, perfect. Thank you. All right, so I guess we'll get started here. Before I get to the material, my name is Dave Horowitz, and this is my seminar with Bulletproof Business and Estate Solutions. Just a bit of an intro, and then I'll get started. Lynn, yes, there will be a recording. So basically, I've been at this since 1987, long before there were computers to find out information. Grew up in New York, in a very corrupt area, lots of very corrupt areas. But my father was an entrepreneur. He did also have a bunch of card rooms, like you see on TV when they knock on the door and a little thing slides open, and then they let you in, and you walk in, and it's there's a bar, there's food, and there's poker tables and televisions and gambling. And sitting at the same table would be the mayor of the city, the chief of police, the head of the mob, discussing contracts. Saw it most of my life. But in 1987, my younger brother was set up by chief of police's grandson, who got arrested for drugs. My brother was 17, had just gotten over chemo and cancer, and had a 3-month-old at home, and wasn't very healthy, so he wasn't able to earn money. And needless to say, him and I weren't the nicest of, or doing nice things there back in the early 80s. But this chief of police had his grandson set up my brother. My brother ended up getting 4.5 to life. And first-time offender, 17 years old, with a child at home and still recovering from cancer. But it was at that time that I basically started studying the law. and scoured libraries and bookstores and looked for banned books and pretty much anything I could find. At the same time, I started reading the Bible. So, since 1987, I've been doing all these things that you see here in the freedom community, quote unquote, A for V, and 1099, this and that, and basically, over the last 37, almost 38 years, I have seen a lot of the stuff that I see out there coming and going, and sometimes you'll get lucky, it'll work. Sometimes you'll, bore the would-be judge there, talking them to death. But I stopped seeing these things work. Never really over the entire time saw anything work consistently in any situation. 1991 or so, 91, I became a certified financial planner in New York. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, trusts, all kinds of investment, and how would she say, sheltering tools, basically, that people use to protect their assets. And I did that for a bunch of years, but I ended up getting into business as an entrepreneur. I set up a business consulting firm. Most of my adult life I spent behind a corporate veil, or within the corpus of a trust. And most of us have spent all of our lives subjects of the public trust. And that's probably why a lot of you are here, looking for a way to separate yourself from the public and move into the private. I basically call it, exiting Babylon, getting out of that commercial system, operating in a way that you do not have to, you're not subject, you're not party to it. You separate yourself. That's where a lot of the things that I learned over the years, studying law and studying the Bible, is, the Bible has always been able to get a result, a positive result, a remedy. Always. And I've scoured the codes, the statutes, the constitutions, and in, so many of these states. There's nothing there. It's all a fiction. It's all a fiction. It's a corporate entity over a public trust. Anyway, I want to get into this here. Give me 1 second. Trying to get this a little technically challenged here with this computer, but I'm going to give it a shot tonight. You guys still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Loading, there we go. Ooh. It's going crazy. All right. I think we're gonna start and do it this way. Can you guys see this? Anybody?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. All right. I apologize for the technical difficulties. So I want to get into it. This seminar is establishing a trust estate. What I've done was I've created a few courses. Like I said, I've spent a lot of years doing this. I've written many contracts. I've written many trusts, and I came up with what I've done was I've tried to simplify everything that I learned over, almost the past 4 decades. And I keep hearing folks talk, and when on a lot of these calls, and they don't give you practical information. You may get a nugget here and there, or something that may or may not work. And there's never here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3 in, being able to, take that step after step, follow the map, and get to where you're going. And being able to walk out of the system, literally, if you want to, or operate that straw man, right, the legal person, at arm's length. First step in doing that, and that's why this seminar, Establishing Your Trust Estate, most of us are in this situation, right? Reclaiming our stewardship over what's ours, right? Everything you think you own, you don't. The state does. The title, right? You're holding a title for your vehicle, right? And that title is a certificate of title, right? You're holding equitable title. How do I know this? One, you need a license to use it, right? The vehicle itself. If it was yours, you don't need the license. Only the owner can give license to something. Anybody disagree? Right? Only I can give permission to use something that I own. Here's an example. You get pulled over. The police, you say something like, "I'm not driving, I'm traveling," like a lot of these gurus say. And they go, "Oh, great, we got another one of those." And guys, if you would mute, I'm going to open it up to questions, or if I ask, please do answer, so I know I'm still live here. But they pull you over, they put you in the car, and they have your vehicle towed, right? They ordered a service. This is a commercial issue, right on the side of the road, and they issue an order to the tow company to come and pick up that vehicle. They couldn't order services for something they don't have the right to administrate over, right? They can only administrate over trust property, public trust property. When you register something, right, your birth certificate, your car registration, bank accounts, every single one of those is an evidence of the public trust relationship. You're not the trustee, you're the subject, right? You're the surety for the beneficiary, the legal person. You're the surety for the legal person. So, like I said, when I started doing this, at the same time I was starting to read the Bible. And it took me a lot of years of reading it before I saw a lot of contradictions. We're supposed to walk in authority and a lot of things like that. And we're supposed to be separate from this world system, in the world, not of the world, right? We're supposed to be stewards. And if you guys could mute, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And when, as a steward, right? A steward is a trustee, a caretaker, right? Of whatever is entrusted to you. Whatever is entrusted to you. What do you know? How would you know if something was entrusted to you? You have possession of it, right? Your house, your car, your children, your business, things like that that you've registered throughout your life because that's what you were told that you were supposed to have had to do. Okay? And I realized that wasn't what, the way this was supposed to be. Hasn't changed in thousands of years. All right. So how do you establish your trust estate? First thing you're going to do, okay, is get an inventory together. How do you know what's entrusted to you? If you don't know that you got it, how many people have a garage full of stuff? They have no idea what's in there. These are things that you worked for and, spent your energy on. They have value. Might be nominal, doesn't matter. But it's taking inventory over the things that were entrusted to you. And it's not just things. Okay? It's our relationships. All trusts, I should say, all relationships are built on trust or it's not a real relationship. So relationships, you take inventory of that as well. Okay, when you take that inventory, and I say to think about your relationships, who would you trust? Who would you trust with your children? That politician down the street, or a judge, or some lawyer somewhere? Probably not. But friends, family members, right? People that you do actually trust. Those are going to be your trustees, your beneficiaries, and possible future trustees. So it's not just taking an inventory of the things that you have, a house, a car, a boat, or whatever. Okay, it's taking inventory of all the different relationships. You're going to start to put together a plan. Okay.
I don't want to be on camera.
Guys, could you mute yourselves, please? And I'll open it up for some questions a little bit later. Thank you. So every document, every account, every title, gather them like puzzle pieces because they tell the story of who controls your estate right now. Okay. When you see those things, if you're paying taxes for your home, okay, if you're registering your car, you're putting it into the public trust. You're giving them legal title, and you accept back a certificate of beneficial interest. I like to call it a pawn slip. And you'll learn more about that in the second seminar because it's part of administration. But that certificate of beneficial interest is like a pawn slip. Okay. It's the second half of the title. It's actually the stronger half of the title. Okay? Because with that pawn slip, you can collapse the trust in the public. You can force an accounting and a conveyance of all rights, titles, interests, and properties that they hold in the public. All right. So when you see clearly, you can move strategically. That's what we're going to do in the full course. You walk through each asset, identify what belongs to whom, and start bringing it home. Not just the stuff that's in the public, but getting your own house in order, getting an inventory of the things that you have. All right. So I get a lot of people who go, hey, can you make me a trust? I want to do this, and I'm going to, and do this and that and the other. You don't have one relationship, okay? And there's tons of different types of trust, and you can be as creative as creating a new business or creating a trust is like creating a new business, okay? But there's a lot of different trusts that make up a trust estate. Okay, one trust does not cover all. So living trust, I like to do a living will, not necessarily a living trust. I do a series of other trusts, but a living will, family trust, asset holding trust, business trust, management trusts. There's a ton of different trusts that you can use as tools to organize and manage your estate. Okay, they all work together. Okay, each trust has its own role. They all operate under a management trust, other than what I call the Kingdom of Heaven Trust. That's your, if you've heard of the separation of church and state. Okay, when you are separate, when you are only allowed to serve one master, you can't violate that one, right? The one you choose voluntarily, and they can't violate it either. I can show, and we do, and we show that in the full course, and we discuss things like this on Thursday evenings when we do class reviews. Anyway, so the Kingdom of Heaven Trust, right, separates you from the state. It's a trust that is a lot older than any operating country, okay? Or it doesn't matter where you're at, okay? It's recognized everywhere. May not be liked everywhere, but it's definitely recognized as an ancient trust, okay? An everlasting covenant. A covenant is a trust. And if you're indentured, you only have one law and one lawgiver. Everybody else is a fraud. Anyway, so each trust has a role, right? They all operate together within your estate. You're the trustee responsible to keep it working, keep it healthy, functional, fruitful, protected. And the second trust that we would normally do that we do in the course, okay, is what I call a straw man trust. In that trust, okay, you're going to separate, you're going to quit claim the equitable title, the birth certificate, the social, and all the fun stuff that belongs to that enumerated persona, okay, that was created to be a debtor in the public trust, okay, and you create the entity of the same name, the new straw man, okay. You quit claim the birth certificate, and you quit claim the social and everything attached to that into your straw man trust. In the Kingdom of Heaven Trust, you are the direct trustee. In the straw man trust, you're the manager. Okay? You can operate it at arm's length, but the trustee of that trust, okay, you're not a beneficiary and you're not the trustee, not directly. Third trust you would set up would be a management trust. That management trust is the trustee for all of your other trusts except your Kingdom of Heaven trust. And you are the first trustee of that trust. So you own nothing, you manage and operate everything within your estate. All right, so every trust has three different players most of the time, okay? But they have to have these three. A grantor, the one who creates it, right? We're not the grantor of the Kingdom of Heaven Trust. That was already done for us. You are the trustee, all right, the one who manages, and The beneficiary is the one who's receiving the benefits, right? The blessings. And sometimes you can be all three. You just can't be all three and the only three. That's not trust. Okay. So when, let me go on here. All right. All right. So what is an estate? Estate is everything. Okay. It's everything. Everything you have, whether it's a possession, if it's got a title or some sort of identifying papers that have been registered somewhere. Okay. All property, tangible or intangible. Okay, your car, your copyrights, your inheritance, your children's education fund, your relationships, everything. Okay, biggest asset, your energy, what you trade for money. Okay, that's an asset, right? That's what paid for all this stuff in your garage. Pay for your home, pay for your car, right? So trusts, okay, like I said earlier, every relationship you have, right, is a trust. Whether it's with you go into Walmart and you have a bad experience, right? It's still a trust when you go in. Okay, it's private. I don't just because I walked into Walmart and I've heard people say, well, if you use Federal Reserve notes, you're agreeing to be in their system. That's ridiculous. So if I paid in pesos, that means that I'm Mexican or I'm a Mexican citizen. No, it doesn't work like that. It's ridiculous. But when I walk into Walmart and I buy something and I walk up and I use whatever currency they're accepting, and I walk out with the value for the debt notes that I gave them, okay, that's all private. None of that was done in the public, okay? But the way that Walmart is managed, okay, the people who work there, the owners, the stockholders, all of that, they're under they're public corporations. I don't know if Walmart is anymore, but I don't pay attention to the stocks, but it's all about managing relationships. So every relationship you have with people, institutions, every contract that you have entered into is a trust. Okay. So years ago, I decided I'm not doing too much without a contract, okay, or a covenant. Private contract. Okay. And the reason why was because even with family, friends, everything's out there. Everybody knows what they're supposed to do, what they're responsible for, and what benefits they're getting. Okay? Makes those relationships easier, actually. Okay? Everybody knows where they stand. In the public, okay, the question is, are you the trustee or are you managed as the property? Okay? How are you managed as the property? Are you the trustee? Trustee is the one with the fiduciary duty, unless your fiduciaries in the public, all right, pass the buck through legislation to force the user or beneficiary, and you're never the beneficiary, the legal person is the beneficiary. It's not you. It's not you. Hope everybody on this call understands what I'm saying. The legal person, the straw man, is not you. Never was. It's the thing that you do business in commerce. This is why moving things into the private works. Just another transaction. You're just doing your job. Anyway, when you when you start to learn about trust law, and we do go through trust law through these courses, gets deeper and deeper into it as you get going, and A lot of our conversations are around trust law and equity. Okay, you're not dealing in admiralty, law merchant. You're not dealing in even law of the land, constitutional laws and the statutory trusts and things like that. And you get into the courses, you'll start to learn about subject matter. And I don't know if you understand what subject matter is here in just about everywhere that I've seen and helped with court cases. There's the court cannot hear anything, administrate anything without subject matter jurisdiction. All the courts you're ever in, okay, are administrative. Okay, they can't administrate over property that is not within their purview, within their public trust. And if you registered your car, they can administrate over it. Okay, the cop pulls you over. He's an administrative officer. You violated the rules of the public trust that you signed in that contract that you volunteered for when you created that trust. You agreed. May not have been a full disclosure, but you agreed to it. Okay? That's it. All right. So, the public system, the adversarial system, right? It literally thrives. It lives on conflict. It's always win-lose, always conflict. You go into the courts, right? The whole adversarial system, that statutory system, right? What are the laws? Literally, what are the laws in your jurisdiction where you're at? Were they put together by a bunch of men and women, right? Their opinions passed really without your consideration or approval or consent? Their opinions. I know there's a lot of folks in common law countries, like crown countries, and the United States is no different. But in those common law systems, and I know in the U.S., if you think you are going to go in with a version of common law that you've been studying, okay, and you'll find out what they recognize as common law is case law, judges' opinions. Judges' opinions. So it's just opinionated. And we've allowed them to manage our lives based on their opinions and basically rob us of our inheritance. And our parents, they've been in the system just as long, probably their whole lives and now yours. All right, so public's adversarial, thrives on conflict, always win or lose. Private realm operates in equity. It's win-win, balance, honor, agreement, right? The moment you bring your estate into private, you step out of the courtroom into your own court. So subject matter is property of the trust. It's trust res. Okay? So if you register your property with the state, you registered your home, you look at your deed, you are a tenant. If you registered your vehicle, you are a driver or a user. Okay, you are not the legal title holder. They have subject matter jurisdiction, authority over the trust res, the subject matter that was entrusted to them. You entrusted it to them. You registered and created that trust. Nobody showed up at your house with a gun and said, do it. Although if you drive down the road with a private plate like the one I use, they will come and sometimes question you about it. Most of the time you can deal with it on the side of the road, especially if you're peaceful about it. All right. So who makes the rules of your trust? Well, you do, right? The grantor creates, I said in the beginning, the grantor is who creates the trust. In the word of God, right? That everlasting covenant, your kingdom of heaven trust, God created that. You have you have nothing to write. You just agree to follow the rules, follow your indenture, right? And your other trusts, it's a matter of the governing clause, really. If you've read contracts, most trusts I've seen that I, even in the freedom community, usually will say, oh, this trust is governed by the laws of the state of Florida and the United States. You just subjected your trust to a different governor. Okay? You never left. You're still public. You're governed by the laws of the state and federal government. We put ourselves in bondage, guys. Okay? So in public law, the legislature makes the rules. Private, the indenture, your trust document is the law. If you've ever heard of the maxim, the law arises from the contract, or the law between the parties arises from the contract. Okay? The law, if the state is not a party to your contract, you have no law with them. Okay? If you write your indentures properly, and we teach you to do all that in the course, and you provide templates to do so. Okay, like I said, this isn't a call for, hey, here's a couple of tips. Great, hope good luck out there. Yes, this is for a course called Establishing Your Trust Estate. It is step by step. There's a lot of benefits that go with it. I'll talk about a little more at the end. But if you write your indentures, if you write your trust documents properly, okay, clearly, simply, okay, that covenant, that contract governs whatever's in that trust. Okay? The state does not have any authority over it. So what does it mean to be an indentured trustee, right? An indentured servant. Indentured does not mean enslaved, okay? It means bound by covenant. You serve the trust, not as a slave, but as a trustee, okay? A faithful steward, okay? And it's funny, I say, you ever hear the words, I'm just doing my job, right? You probably heard a Copper 2 say that, or some judge, or blah, 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 It's a cop-out, okay? But it's also the truth, okay? Nothing personal. You're doing your job, okay? When you're the trustee over your estate, you're the highest authority over the subject matter when it comes to anything that's within your estate. Now, your Kingdom of Heaven trust that sets you apart, okay? God's the highest authority over you, the only authority over you, right? And the indenture that you agreed to. That's it. Recognized around the world, okay? Creates some impossibilities for the judicial system or any agency of government to deal with, because you're no longer a party. Okay? You separate yourself. And then you could just do your job, reconcile all things back to your private. All right. So who benefits? What are their rights? Beneficiaries are your heirs, your loved ones, your future self. And if you don't establish it, the state will, and it'll decide who gets what. If anybody's ever had to do a probate for a family member or someone they cared about. No will, no trust, no, nothing established, nothing written down. And you see even family members fighting over things and lawyers getting wealthy, $600, $700, $800 an hour to, that they steal from the estate. That's after you're dead. Okay. While you're alive, the state is using, the straw man, right, as a surety for its debts. A slave. So while you're alive, the state's doing that. Okay. Why? Because they're the trustees. Okay. They're the guardians. You're a minor. You're always a minor in the state. Look how the codes are written. Look how the statutes are written. It's always to someone who's subject. Okay? It always decides what you're going to get, what you're going to keep, how much you owe them for managing your affairs. All right. So ownership and subject matter. Okay? Ownership is control, right? If I own something and I'm the owner outright, nobody else can make a claim to it, right? Then I get full control, barring everybody else, right? I can say who can use it, who can't, who stays, who goes. That's full control, right? Control without a lawful title is an illusion. It is because lawful title, okay, it's when there's a split title, there's a trust. Okay, that's evidence of a trust. Split title. Lawful title stays with the trustee. Beneficial title or equitable title stays with the beneficiary, the one who gets to use it and enjoy the benefits. Okay? When you merge those two titles, you collapse the trust. When the two titles come together in the equitable title holder's hands, okay, the beneficiary's hands, because the beneficiary is always the true owner of the trust property or the subject matter. They're always the true owner. Just like they'll say, oh, this is the public's property. It's everybody's, yay. Yeah, it's not, it sounds great until you try to go use it, right? But they hold the legal title. You hold the equitable title, right? When the two go back together, okay, you're collapsing the trust. It's called doctrine of merger. And we use the doctrine of merger to collapse those public trusts and force an accounting and have them acknowledge and quit claim to all rights, titles, and interests of anything within their possession. Everything. Credits. Could be anything. Could be anything. Bonds, other securities, whatever it is. Okay? All right. So once property is placed in your private trust, it's out of the jurisdiction of the statutory courts. Absolutely. You returned it to equity. Okay? Equity. Okay? Fairness. You get to pick who gets to manage your affairs. And it'll be you behind the shield of trust or multiple trusts. Okay? You change the court from theirs to yours. Subject matter jurisdiction. So I get pulled over, right? And they write a ticket. And you go to court. And basically, they run you over and say, go pay the clerk. Well, that's not how we deal with things. From the trust, okay, your management trust, right? Who's getting the ticket? Who can get the ticket? The legal person, the straw man. That's the only thing they have subject matter jurisdiction over, or at least they did until you set up your estate and the trust that is of the same name as your straw man, right? and you can quit claim your equitable rights into it, right? Birth certificate, your social, your, all rights, titles, and interests, all the property in that name and number. Not only property, okay? What's the most powerful thing out there, right? Information, right? Information about you and your life from the time that you were born. If they could do it from the time you were conceived, they would. But every single record from the day that you were born forward, right? Every piece of information that was your parents, your grandparents, all that information is administrative record. That's part of the accounting. That's the most important part, right? When they search for you in there, if this is how you choose to live, totally private, you don't come up. You don't come up. Okay? File sealed, no subject matter jurisdiction. You can have it say whatever you want depending on the way you administrate it. Okay? But you returned it to your private side where you choose, right? Where you're the authority over the subject matter. So it isn't theory, okay? Being a trustee, it's not theory, it's practice. You got to do it. It's not something where you go, oh, I got to trust, and you go and throw it in the drawer like you do with your Bible, and it does you no good sitting in the drawer collecting dust. Okay, it's managing your own affairs in a manageable way. Okay, it doesn't mean that every day you have to write something into the minutes of every trust that you have. Okay, but it'd be good practice to manage it as it comes in or as things come up, and at least look at it from time to time. Okay, not just look at that. Okay, and one of the things we do with the students in the course is we go through the indenture every year. Go through it. Know what it says. It's your law, and that's what you're going to use to deal with interlopers, trespassers, third parties, administrators who in the public think that they have a right to administrate in a tortious way, in a fraudulent way, over your private trust property, and how to deal with them. We go into that in the third course, in defending and protecting your trust, bringing claims and protecting the trust and your assets from those claims. All right, so inventory, again, we're going to get back to inventory because it's where you start, okay? Map out what's yours, what's encumbered, right? Where it's a equity, okay? If you look at a house, right, and a mortgage, your liability is a part of that property that's not yours, right? That's something that has to be dealt with, okay? And there are ways to deal with those things from your private trust estate. Concerning subject matter jurisdiction, that's not what this call is about tonight, but there's a ton of recordings in our Thursday night group that we talk about these things as well. But equity in your house is the amount of the house, right? The market value of the house minus what you owe, right? So if you have a $1 million house and you've got a $300,000 mortgage, you've got $700,000 in equity if that $1 million market value is right. Okay, the equity is what you own, the part you own and possess. Right, possession's 9/10 of the law. Well, if you're dealing in trust is born in equity. It isn't subject to the statutes. The trust itself is the law for that trust. Okay? Think about that in the public side. The law on the public side is everything you see, the opinions of all of those trustees and legislators, those representatives that are running around masquerading as your representatives. I don't know about you. I never signed a power of attorney over to anybody, nor would I even trust them in the same room with my grandkids. So I don't vote for them. I don't acknowledge their authority. Okay. Anyway, getting back. All right. So making up your inventory list. Hopefully you guys have been taking notes. Otherwise, the recording will be in this group at some point after we're done. And you can go back and take some notes. I would start with an inventory list. Okay, map out what's yours, what's encumbered, what's got liens on it, all right, and what has to be done, or what you want to, or should want to, reconcile from the public to your private estate. Think about how you fund your estate. Here's how. Okay, it's part of your inventory. It's already funded. You've been funding it your whole life. Anyway, we go deeper. Wills, management trusts, marriage trusts, family trusts, all designed to separate you from the state and restore order to your house, where you make up the rules, not some clown who got elected by lying. Right? You can pass on an inheritance to your children. You can bypass their entire probate system. Okay? If you didn't know, there's really only two types of courts in these administrative countries where they're administrating the bankruptcy. So there's your bankruptcy court, okay? And probate, where they administrate over the dead person. They're administrative courts. That's all your courts. And they're administrating over that straw man. Why? Because right now, they're the trustees, and that's their job. And you gave it to them. But it's okay because you can take it back. And that's what the course is designed to show you how to do it. All right. So ownership, okay? True ownership isn't having your name on a deed. It's having the authority over what's entrusted to you, okay? Trusts are autonomous. Your private trusts, the way that we set them up, they're autonomous. It's like your own nation. You can create your own license. Why? Because only the owner of something, the legal title holder, can give a license, right? The trustee can give a license to the beneficiary. Permission to use the car, Dad? Yeah, sure, right? When you build your trust structure, your family bank, your insurance trust, asset holding trusts, right? You're no longer just reacting to what's going on out there, right? Being pushed around, told what you can and can't do with your own stuff, okay? You take that back. You take back subject matter jurisdiction. And I said it earlier. Like I said, I want to simplify all the stuff that I've been studying and researching for the better part of 40 years, okay? It's taking back and managing your own affairs. If I've got to stand before God and account for the things that were entrusted to me, the relationships, the things that I was blessed with, then I better be the one managing it. I can't get up there and go, hey, I'm sorry, I stuck my head in some politician's butt and supposedly he was acting on my best behalf. Sorry. Okay? Each layer of your trust adds privacy. Each agreement, okay, adds order. Those covenants give you the law. Right? There's an equitable maxim that says, chaos ensues where a man doesn't bring his own authority, right? His own jurisdiction. Chaos ensues. Why? Isn't it every time if you've been pulled over and you've been, I don't know, listening to every guru down the pike, right? I'm a traveler. I'm not a this or, some other nonsense. You're arguing. You're arguing. They love it. It's the adversarial system, right? They know you got contracts with the adversary, right? Your contracts protect you. Okay? The private, it's peaceful. You don't have to scream and yell at them. We just, if we do our administration right, okay, there shouldn't be any issue at all. They'll recognize you on the side of the road as being foreign to their jurisdiction. Give you an example. So if you move from New York to Florida, okay, and the statute in Florida and pretty much everywhere else around says you've got 30 days to register your vehicle in the state if you live here, right? So you move to Florida and you've got a New York title and you go into the DMV in Florida with your New York title, right? It'll say New York State Certificate of Title. It's a certificate of beneficial interest in that vehicle. You're holding the equitable title, okay? And this happens behind the scenes, okay? So you go into Florida DMV, you hand them the equitable title from New York, and your application, right? You're begging them, you are applying, you're petitioning them to take this property in trust. Okay, you're asking them to do it. So they take it, and about 2 weeks later, you're going to get a nice, shiny new Florida State Certificate of Title. Right now, you're a user under subjection of Florida State statutes, codes, and driver laws, and all their fun stuff that the public trust puts on you in Florida. Now, behind the scenes, Florida notices New York, cancels the New York title, has them acknowledge that it's canceled, and sends back that acknowledgement for their records. It's the same if I were to move from Florida to Mexico or anywhere else. It's a totally different trust, right? Who knows what their rules are down there? Well, it doesn't matter. If you're private, you know, the trust is the trust is a trust. It's still under your rules, okay? Ownership is the only way you can, put out licenses and when you register the property into your trust and show the evidence chain of where it came from, okay, and what the position, the equitable position of the one granting it to the trust, you're holding evidence of chain of ownership, right, or chain of beneficial interest, at least, that equitable title. But the equitable title holder, again, is the true owner. Now, when you set up a new trust, okay, especially with property that was held in another trust, and because you have possession of it, you can transfer the benefit or the actual asset, okay, without anybody asking anybody. You don't need to go to the state and ask if you can transfer your beneficial ownership in your house, your car, all those things that you hold the certificate of beneficial interest for, right? The equitable title for. When you put that into the trust gains that authority over those benefits, right? The trust becomes a true owner. And because there's a new trustee, the prior trustee owes a fiduciary duty to account for all that property or whatever property it was when it was entrusted to them. And that includes the record. Okay? When your life, business, and relationships operate in trust, you no longer contract with the system, you govern yourself. Right? So when you realize you can have complete control over the things that have been entrusted to you and have the tools, the authority, the power to manage your own affairs, okay, you can then pass it on to your beneficiaries, right? Your children, your children's children, your trustees, your children may be beneficiaries now, but if you teach them the principles of trust, and it's not hard, Someday I'll probably make a course just for parents to teach children how to be trustees, and at least a fun way to learn the principles. But it's not hard. It's not hard, right? Teach your children how to manage the family estate. And that's how you move wealth from one generation to another. All right. So this is a little bit about the course itself. I'm going to open up the call to questions here in a few minutes. So between now and the end of the month, okay, we're going to open this up and give a big discount from anybody who's been on these calls, okay, or that hears these calls before the end of the month. We may extend it, but basically $500 off of the course, the first course. They're $2,500. Normally, I also charge $500 for the trust templates. They are complete. They are ready to fill in with your information and make your own. So that's $1,000 off. So from $3,000 to $2,000, I do take payments. Okay. There's 40 lessons, 5 a week, templates, mentoring that continues on throughout your, establishing this. Hardest thing is, like, over the years, I do trust for people. They put it in their drawer. They don't, they stop going and consulting and learning how it is to manage these things as a good trustee. Okay. We do these calls every Thursday with other students. The questions are from all 3 courses. So even if you're in the first course, you'll start hearing more advanced concepts and discussions on how to use those things, those principles and concepts, and get to hear how other people are doing it and ask your own questions as well. So I'm going to open it up to, I'm hoping everybody's still hearing me and that this is still going.
Questions.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna open it up for questions about the call, but also I want to open it up. I'm sure I've got some current students on here at all different, levels within the courses that might want to, give some insight as to what they can expect. Also, something that I haven't put out there, not on my website. I do not promote it outside of those that are taking these courses. But for the past 2 years, I've been training an AI bot with the help of one of my students on here and another friend who's a programming whiz and one of the developers for ChatGPT. And we've got our own bot that I call Judge Dredd that is programmed to look up the laws, statutes, codes, case law, and all that other garbage in any jurisdiction with very strict parameters. And the students are able to access that, and they're actually, by what they do with it, are helping to teach it. But it's pretty amazing. It can help you write your trusts. It can help you write, any documents you need for court. And we go through how and what ways to utilize that. I see Kevin. Are you on there?
Yes, I am.
You've been spending some time with Dredd. What do you got to say?
It's really good because you can ask it questions and it starts looking up the different codes and statutes. For those that don't know me, I'm Canadian, so this information is both it's cross border. So it doesn't matter whether you're in the States or Australia or Britain or Canada. It does look up your specific codes and whatnot, and it's a good resource to sort of narrow down what statutes and codes you'd be looking at, and at least it gives you a chance to read them and sort of get an idea of what at law will be looking at when you're building your case or whatever. And it's good to have feedback before you're in the hot seat.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean, if any of the folks that are students already in the courses have anything they'd like to add about the, the content and, how, like I said, I try to make this easy for folks. I don't want to make it tough for people to understand. If it's easy to understand, you can teach it to your kids. You can explain it to some barrister or lawyer or judge wannabe, and, stand confident without your legs shaking and your chin chattering. Go ahead. I'm going to open it up.
It's super easy to understand. David did really make it simple. Judge Dredd is awesome. And just, the weekly Thursday session that we have is super duper awesome. And as you're going along your course and doing it yourself, which you should, we highly recommend, because, otherwise you're not learning really anything. You need to know how to do this to protect yourself. And you can basically give your feedback and ask questions as you go along and learn even more tenfold. It's super great, guys, and it's time we wake up and, praise the Lord for this kind of stuff, which was here all along forever. And, the powers that were, as I like to say, not be, that powers that were, you know what I mean? They never had a chance. They just hid things from us, and hoped we never found out this stuff. So I just want to thank you, David, for what you've done, and praise the Lord. Yes. Booyah.
Booyah. Thanks, Chief.
I'll echo his sentiment. It's good having course material that is tailored to what we're trying to do. You can spend a lot of time reading books. I've read a number of trust books, and they're very general. You can learn from them for sure, but what we're trying to do is a little bit different. We're not trying to set up a trust for our estate only. We're not trying to just make a will. This is incorporating a number of trusts to properly manage a private trust system. If you study, most books are written for statutory trusts. A trust is a trust is a trust, like David said, but the strategy is a little bit different. And so you want to try to keep things private. You want perhaps a public trust, but you definitely want your private trusts as well that are not in the purview of the government agencies and so on. You want to keep that private. I'll share one little thing from, I don't know if anyone from the other course, the Reclaim Your Securities, there were the books, Art of Passing the Buck. There's volumes 1 and 2. And at the end of volume 2, there's an interesting quote. And it's about a former IRS commissioner. And I'll just read it. It's a quick quote. I'll tell you where it is so you can look it up yourself, but it is on page 526. So 526 of number 2, Art of Passing the Buck, volume 2. And it's under presentation 11, former IRS commissioner speaks out. And he says, people are kidding themselves. They don't have the buying power they used to have. A lot of people living today don't know what their power of success was before we decided to use excessive income tax to punish success and estate and gift taxes to force every generation to start from scratch. If you think about that for a second, they do not want us to know about trusts. They definitely want to tax us to death so that all we can do is survive. And they don't want it passing along to the next generation. And when we start thinking about trust, what we really want to do is think beyond your own life and set yourself up, but set the next generation up. That's the most important thing. The people, the generational wealth that passes along, it's done in the form of trust, and it's done in private trusts. This is the secret. And if we do this for our children, then our children and our grandchildren will have a good life, and they don't have to struggle like we have.
And I'd like to also add, because my partner Megan and I have been for the last 4.5 years dealing with children, family disservices. You probably see me mention this in the chat. By the way, Kevin, that was awesome, brother. And yeah, keep it on. Yeah, well, we've been trying to save our son. Thank God he's with my sister, but my sister's not awake. She's asleep. She doesn't believe in God or anything of that sort. And she has our son, and we are not able to see him because we are not, essentially, you don't own him. You know what I mean? You don't own your children when you register them, their birth certificate and yada, yada. It's a long story, but that's our drive and incentive to do this. And it's more than that too. You know what I mean? It's your banking. It's your banking trust, right? You like the management trust, like David was saying, you manage everything, right? All facets of your life, right? You are in control. And we don't need anyone to govern us. And the very word govern means control. And mental, well, that's your mentality. It's your mind, They're very double-minded in there in the courts and beyond. So, this is going to protect your family and, your offspring, right? I don't even like to use children. I think that's a governmental term too, right? If you're a parent, you're a pair that rents. No, you're a mother and a father, and you own your children. God entrusted them to you, right? Trust. And trust is built on relationship. Relationships are built on trust. What's that? I think there's a spiritual maxim, thus who creates owns, right? So the state does not own your children. They can come and they can tow your car away when you register it, anything they want almost. And it's just, it's hideous.
Oh, your
The
children
satanic
away.
system, or wait, adversarial system. Yeah. AKA. So it's just, this is super important, guys. And yeah.
I'll speak to that too. It bothers me a lot to see, when, it's one thing to, have your property taken, but when they're taking children because of parents' patrie and, the crown is the father of the nation or the state is the father of the nation. This is why I said earlier that you are a minor in their system and they're the guardian or trustee over you. You're always going to be a minor in their system. When you stand up and manage your own affairs, stop arguing, right? Put away the childish things that we did when we argued, okay? And we manage our own affairs. They get us coming and going because it's always an argument. Well, you're supposed to pay taxes. Why? Because they've been teaching us our whole lives that? I mean, it's surprising they don't pipe it in backward masked music in the streets everywhere. But that's what you find, that we've been taught. So, if you have to register your car, you have to register your children, you have to get permission to be married. And those are all licenses, and licenses permission. So yes, when you registered your children, okay, you gave legal title, you pledged legal title to the state or the crown, wherever you are at, if you are operating in the adversarial system. Our parents created contracts with the adversary. We've done it our whole lives. Equity does not aid a volunteer. And we volunteered into a lot, and our parents volunteered into a lot. But slavery supposedly is illegal, and in most countries, and other than legalized slavery. But if it's not your choice, then it's by force, which would be slavery. And as long as you have the evidence, and that's what we do in establishing your trust estate, is put together the evidences, right? That's what establishing all this stuff is, okay? When you establish your trust estate, you're getting your evidence package together. You could walk in with your trust binders and show who has subject matter jurisdiction over the matter that's before them and who has the right to administrate it. And I guarantee you, they'll never show up with any evidence whatsoever. Did Michael come on?
I don't know if I saw him.
I invited him to. I invited him.
Yeah, I saw that. So I was going to ask him to tell a story, but I can tell it if he's not here. He helped start creating the Judge Dredd program, and he used to listen to my How to Win in Court Without a Liar podcasts. They were almost 5 years worth of podcasts there. And we used to do a mock court live. We'd get a bunch of people on the call and people who had issues, and we'd run their supposed remedies, or they would, and it wasn't just the supposed remedy, it was whatever they were doing, before, at that time, and to try and run it through a court scenario. And one of us would play judge, prosecutor, jury, and we would hear cases and work it out as close to reality as we could. And he took the idea and turned it into Judge Dredd. And Dredd can be the defendant, he can be the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, right? There's many things you can have the AI do. And he tried and tried as he was starting to test it to beat the judge. And he was having a horrible time at it, couldn't do it. And he remembered the document that I had given him back a while ago, just a notice of private trust affidavit. And he took 2 or 3 statements from it, ran it in through the program, and he beat it. The judge dismissed the case. So, so it's, it understands and knows where to look for the specific jurisdiction. If you were to run a case through there, an older case, right, something that you pulled out of the law books, and you run the case through with all the evidence, all the files, and it would analyze the case and say whether or not the jury was right, whether the judge was right, whether what everybody did wrong, and analyze the entire thing. So that's what we designed it to do. And so it's a very, very powerful tool for helping you with issues like what JP is going through with Megan. And it's real helpful. And like I said, it's not available out there to the public. It's only available for students in the courses. And it's available, the Thursday calls are available as long as we have them. And I'd like eventually for, some of the students to start teaching in there on Thursday nights, and maybe even other nights if it's more convenient and we have more people. So, but the recordings are always there, and we've got a ton of those already in there. So as soon as you jump into the course, you can start getting into the recordings in that group, because with your, with the enrollment on the course, you'll get the link to that Thursday group and can join in and go through and listen to all those recordings as well. Full access to the library on the website. So I've got I don't know if it's bulletproofsolutions.org, and anybody on this call if it's something, if you want to check out the full website, anybody, if you just reference this call, send an email. Okay. I'll give you my email if you're listening. It's AFREEMANINBABYLON @gmail.com. A free man in Babylon @gmail.com. Go to the website, sign up for the free membership, and I will comp anybody on this call now or hearing the recordings 1 month of access, so you can access the full site. You'll have access to the do-it-yourself library. I got tons and tons of books in there that are yours to download. And there's some informative stuff on there as well, but you'll also have access to preview and look at the course curriculum and see what we're all about.
And there's a ton of information on there. There's a lot of information on there. Lots you can download, lots you can read. But really, the power of the course, in my opinion, is the access to David. He's our mentor, and he can answer the questions. And when you have questions and you don't know where to turn, looking it up or reading another book is not. It's too time consuming. A lot of us have spent a lot of time in this area, and we need someone that has the answers, so that we can move on. We can get what we want done. We want to correct our status. We want to move our stuff into the private. We want to start living our life, by 20 maxims, not the thousands and hundreds of thousands of codes and codifications and rules and so on. When we move into the private, when we move into equity, we live our life by 20 maxims. And this is a whole area that at law does not want you to know about. They want you to stay at the it's so confusing. You need a lawyer. They want you to stay right there, and they'll sort it out for you, by the hour. When we answer our questions and move into the private, that's where we really gain control.
Amen to that.
And Kevin's been through all 3 of the courses, so he's pretty far advanced in his studying within the courses. So he's as far as a firsthand review of all 3. Monday we're going to be having our second seminar. That's going to be for administration. I would suggest, if you're going to show up, start getting your inventory list together. That's something you can do right now. Start taking inventory of the things that have been entrusted to you, and come to the course on Monday, same time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and look forward to having you there. Anybody have any questions from the general group?
Yeah, I do.
Sure.
So Taji here from Melbourne in Victoria, Australia. Because we deal in a legal system where we use the words that may incriminate us, there was a comment made earlier, I think it was Jay, he was giving you a compliment, letting you know about the good work, and then he made the hua, which is the Marines' call to sempre fidelis. Now, would that be considered as retaking the oath in that arrangement? Say, for example, because I'm assuming people who are of that opinion and say things like that have been a Marine or part of the service, and therefore have a duty pledge to that group.
It's a good question, and again,
because we're looking at things symbolically. Everything is symbolically, and like I said, the words that we use
it's not
do
just
discriminate.
symbolic. Yes, they are. By our words, we are uh, we're justified or condemned, right? So again, I mean, it's language and legalese, and these are, I mean, this is a lot of the stuff that we talk about, but yeah, legalese and separatorandus, all these things. When you are, we used to do a group with an old partner I used to have. We did a group, Guardians of the Galaxy, and it was about changing the name. And my position was always, if I want to change my name, I change my name, or I establish a trust with whatever name I want, and boom, I've created the entity. Very simple, right? Change
Correct.
the name. I can give it all the legal standing I want. And
Correct. You're the creator, of course.
Right, exactly. And so when they're talking about it, it was going through the court system, and you change your name, and you got to get the judge to, beg a judge to have it changed. And, when you go and do that, before you ever leave that courtroom, they're handing you an application for a new social insurance number. Okay? They're right there going to try and get a sign up for something new, and you'll go, oh, okay, that's another security. And most people would think that way,
Yeah, correct.
It's you're and let me tell you, it's not even a bad thing if you understand how to operate at arm's length, because a straw man you can keep open and just keep it bankrupt and operating it at arm's length, or you can probate and kill it off entirely and transfer the wealth from it to your private estate.
Correct. You collapse the trust and move it over.
Sure. You can do the same thing. Go set up a corporation or an LLC, set up a trust of the same name in the private and quit claim that to the private trust. Okay. And at that point, it's just a pass through from the public to the private. The public side has the registration, so we can do the Uber and the private's the one collecting the money on the pass through that unless you're creating the taxes, and I'm going to say this, taxes are the price you pay for having representatives and public trustees manage your affairs in the public. It's their paycheck. That's why they
That
always
makes
get,
sense.
and here you're paying yourself. The trust takes care of the trustee and the beneficiary.
Yeah, and I suppose as you were explaining it, I was thinking about it, and the fault would lay on the individual that would presume that you simply making that statement or that saying that those words would reinstate you back into that trust previously.
Oh yeah, it could very well do that. I mean, if you're around, the military type people, they take
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they take that very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely, and they'll apprehend you, and because hey, you're part of us, but you're not wearing a uniform. What's going on?
Yeah. You've abandoned your position, and now you're held for something crazy.
Yeah, correct. And also, I wanted to add on JP about the sharing of information, and thank you very much. That's absolutely awesome. The point I wanted to make is everyone learns in different ways, and like I have a struggle with reading. I lose focus because of the way I think and operate, and it helps to listen and see and watch at the same time, because it helps comprehend and absorb the mechanics of how the construct actually works in order to comprehend how the different aspects take part from different angles.
Yeah,
so thank you.
I think putting it down. You're welcome. I appreciate it. Go ahead, Kevin.
And that I would echo that, because that's what's so important is you can get a concept. You can be on a call, Thursday night call, and you can get something. You okay, I understand that. And a week goes by, and oh no, how did that go again? And so then we can ask the question again. It's like the Matrix. When Neo was leaving the Matrix, it was all foreign to him, and that's what trust law is to us. It's foreign. And until we can get out and have someone show us and walk the walk and try it out, and then, test out scenarios, talk about it, that's when you cement it into your mind, because before that, it's a big subject. It's really hard to wrap your head around how trust law works. And that's what the whole system is based on. It's trust law, which is equity. So equity is, trusts are equity. And that's where we want to be. We want to get out of the at-law side, and that's where everyone has been thrown into when we've opted into these things. And David's other courses, we're talking about course 1, so that gives you an overview of what trusts are all about and so on. But in 2, you learn how to set up trusts. In 3, you learn how to manage them and stop people from breaking in on them. And that is so powerful, because now you have a way to defend it and go after people that are attacking it. This is your armor, and you can set up a proper trust structure to protect yourself, and that is true power.
Yes.
Equity acts in personam. Equity acts in personam. So it's not in persona, okay, which is what legal fictions act, okay, in persona, right? You're wearing a mask, or legal fiction, right? You're carrying a corpse. But in equity, it acts in personam. It acts on the actor, okay, the man or woman who is in the costume, okay, and in the public, right? They may be public officers, okay, right? The CEO, right? The secretary of the CEO, right? The president, the CFO, the secretary of the treasury. These are corporate terms, right? But underneath, they're all public trustees. They're all equal, and they can equally be held accountable if they trespass or administrate without having the authority to do so over your private affairs, and learning how to protect and defend those things, bring a claim for unjust enrichment, breach of fiduciary duties. There's all kinds of things. But again, if you don't start at the foundation, and there's 3 courses, you don't want to start at the back fighting something. People have been asking, I saw it within the chat, will this help with this? Will this help with that? Well, this is not a magic pill, at all. It isn't. Anybody that's taking the course will tell you that I'm not offering a magic pill. Okay. I've given paperwork to people, awesome paperwork. It's done, just what they needed, but they never read it. They handed it in, thought it was their magic document. And when they got tried on the information, they failed miserably. Froze like a deer in the headlights. And that's happened many, many, many times over the years. I don't want to, I can't act on your behalf, nor would I presume to do so. Right?
You have to learn yourself.
It has to become who you are. And that's why, like what Kevin was saying earlier, the more you learn this stuff, the more it becomes a part of you, and you start operating differently. We learned all this junk our whole lives that we were told by the public. You have to do this. You have to do that. You've got to get working papers. You got to register your children. You got to register your vehicle. You got to register for school, for a job, for whatever. And it took years and years of hearing that, and then go, wow, I'm free. I can make up the rules, or I can set myself apart and actually have a choice as to whether or not I want to participate in their club. Yeah, you've always had it. The only problem is you didn't know that you were part of a trust, and you are. By volunteering into these public contracts, you bound yourself to it. And there is a way to get out. So the way in is set up your trusts, or the way into that was to set up those trusts. The same way to get out is to set up your private estate, right? Then administrate it, and then protect it and defend it from anybody who would claim to be God over the property that's entrusted to you, right? Administrator or trustee over the subject matter. Anyway, I'll open up again to My students know I like to talk, so you go ahead. Anybody else out there that is not a student that has a question?
Come on, I know you guys got some.
There's no such thing as a silly question. The only silly question is the one that you don't ask. So ask away, guys.
That's for sure. And I always say that because if you're thinking it, somebody else is thinking it as well. These calls, even our Thursday calls, I say it all the time. There's no stupid questions. Now's a good time to get them answered if you've got them. And somebody else needs to hear the answer as well.
Okay, I'll bite. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. I'm in a situation where I've been refusing to file income tax returns. And so now, from the goodness of their heart, they have completed 2 years worth for me, which are ridiculous, the amounts. And I know it's to get my attention. So I have learned that in the Canadian Income Tax Act, there is a clause that talks about how, the situation is that I am a private person. I'm not an employee of a corporation. So I am a private person and I can put 0 on the income tax return. Maybe that will do something. But I'm just curious, I guess, what your opinion would be. Like, if I were to join this course, approximately by when could I have, not that I have a ton of assets, but I have enough. How could I have my asset? How quickly could I have my assets protected through these trusts?
Good question. That's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that, the course it's a 2-month course, 8 weeks.
Okay.
And that's if you, do 1 a day, 5 days a week. They are not super long. Ken, I don't know how long, Kevin, how long did it take you to get through all 3 courses?
Well, I had the benefit of working a night shift where I wasn't too busy and I was able to actually, power down and do them. And I was doing them in about just over 3 weeks. I'm still working on number 3, but while I'm on the roll here, first thing you could do as far as your income tax problems or issues is, do you have a joint bank account with someone else?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's a good thing to do because once you have a joint account with someone and they're trying to collect from you and there's another name on it, they can't get it.
Oh, good. Somebody's protected in that way. I'm protected. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're acting in the private anyways, if your income is not being garnished because you work privately, I am the same.
Oh, yes, I work privately, but that doesn't mean that they can't garnish my accounts. But yes, correct. I do not have an employer.
So if you put it into a joint account with someone else, they can't get at it. That's a quick way to stop them from entering your accounts. Because
I put my account as joint with someone.
Yes.
And that someone doesn't have to be another person. It can be another person. It could be a business. It can be you doing business as. And this is just a quick fix for what he's talking about. This is not the permanent fix that I would suggest.
Exactly.
But it would definitely be a stopgap between you right now and getting your estate in order.
Okay. So could that be just a business name, or would it have to be an incorporation?
It doesn't necessarily have to be a corporation. In the U.S., we have what's called a DBA, doing business
as. Yeah, we have that.
And it's okay. And it's usually under the SIN number, right? Not an EIN number, not an employer identification number.
Exactly. It would be under but I have a business number. I do have a business number. It's not on my account.
Okay.
I'm
Does anybody
operating and I've always
else-
been operating. Sorry?
No, go ahead, finish.
I have always been operating these 23 years just as with my own bank account so that I don't have to pay all these ridiculous fees to have a business account.
Right.
So, but if I were to, I could put that, and I could have a business account and then it could be a joint account, but wouldn't they then still, it would still come after it because that's, because
again,
my
it's not
income is coming from that business.
it's not a solution. It's a stopgap. If we're looking at establishing your estate, I'd say that you can have your straw man trust, your kingdom of heaven trust, and a management trust set up and within the same 2 months that it takes you to go through the course. If it took you 2 months, that's if you were only doing one a day. Okay. I mean, if you were knocking them out and really get a hold of the material, you could get that done in half the time if you're really motivated and get those trusts established and start moving into administration. Okay.
Right.
Once you have that's when you start to send notice. Okay. To the CRA for starters. Right. Here we have the Social Security Administration. I don't know who is the agency in charge of the SIN number or who issues that.
But it's CRA is the one I've been in communication with, and I've been talking to Bob Hamilton very well.
Oh my goodness, I know
year.
that. Yeah, oh believe me, I know who he is. I had a client a few years back who had quite a few properties in Canada, and about 38 of them, I believe, apartment homes. Mm-hmm. And we were battling with him back then.
Yeah.
And very, very interesting situation. But again, the CRA gave up. So it is possible to separate yourself from that thing. And it's not by begging their permission. It's by operation of law. Mm-hmm. Operation of law happens because, you collapse a trust and set up a new trust, and a new trustee, when you hand something to a trustee, it's a trust along with the indenture, the instructions on how to manage it, right? And as soon as they accept that appointment, okay, they are the legal title holders by operation of law and possibly in possession of the asset itself, the subject matter itself. So that means that whoever was the trustee prior, the CRA, they would no longer have a right to administrate over those affairs. Therefore, they can't charge their tax, which is their fees for managing your affairs all these years. And we talk about collapsing those trusts, all of them, all the contracts that you made with the adversarial system, from the CRA for signing under penalty of perjury, to the IRS, to the Social Security Administration, to the Treasury Department, for every dollar that was issued on your social. A full accounting and conveyance of all rights, titles, and interests goes to the new trustee. And they are entitled by operation of law to get that from the prior sorry, there's a coyotes outside. All right. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, well, it's certainly given me more food for thought from both you and Kevin. I thank you both very much. Yeah.
Could I offer something regarding that
Sure.
that I did with the CRA? And it's been a year, and I have not heard from them at all. I got a letter I got a letter a year ago, or no, it would have been August, and said if you need to do. I hadn't filed since 2019, and I got a letter saying we're going to do it if you don't. So I stalled by saying, well, I can't get access to my account, so you need to send me all my documents. And then somehow, some way, a post on Facebook came in, and somebody had made a comment, and it was explaining that in the Income Tax Act, it said you should look into the Income Tax Act. You need to look at the legal definition of Canada and to determine whether you had any taxable income. So it went on to showing some different parts of the Income Tax Act, and it was the section taxable payable by persons resident in Canada to 2.1 taxable income, 2, 3, A, B, C, and it went on under the Interpretation Act, the definition of Canada. So it was the general definitions. It was internal waters, territorial sea, and then it also included some Latin legal maxim and so on. So I crafted a letter, sent that off. Haven't heard from them since.
Wow. That's
Because
impressive.
basically they say the income tax in Canada is based on voluntary self-assessment. Is this because you assess yourself as subject to and liable to tax based on an incorrect assumption as to what these acts say? So basically, you have to determine your own status, and obviously nobody at CRA at the lower level has ever looked at the written definitions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I'll share with something I did, which was a little bit similar to what you're doing. Is you're challenging their assumption, and
yeah,
what I asked them is that I said, "Can you verify that if I file, am I creating a contract? And if I'm creating a contract that will be bound with, am I doing this voluntarily? If you tell me I have to do this, then it's not voluntary."
yeah.
And they shut up after that. There was more in the letter, but basically that's what it is. Is if you're forcing me to sign a contract, then it's not. I'm not doing it under. It's not a bilateral contract.
Yeah, like I ended it that I'm not subject to the Income Tax Act as I'm outside of the jurisdiction, being as I'm not in, under, or above those waters, and therefore not resident, employed, or carrying on a business in Canada. So I'm happy to share this with anybody that wants it.
I would love it. Do you want to send it to my email?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that, or just put it in this group.
Sure. Yep. That'd be super.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have a question.
So yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for those who have young kids in school. If we operate in private, can the kids go to school, or we have to homeschool them? Like how private do we private?
Well, it's always a question you ask, and not everybody's in the same situation. There's my daughter. She homeschools her 3 children. She works from home. She does, and her children are far more advanced than the children her age in the public schools. I've always said, and I raised 3 kids as well. It's what we teach them that it's the public's teaching them. They're going to teach them exactly what they taught us. So that's a choice you have to make. Can you put them into school? Yeah, you can operate the straw man at arm's length. If you registered your children, and they've got a social number and they created a straw person for them. You can operate all that at arm's length. Just, be aware that what they're going to learn there may not be what you want them to learn. But if you're not able because you're doing something else, you're working and whatever, because again, everybody's situation is different. You can put them in public school, you can put them in private school and do it through the trust. There's a lot of ways that you can deal with with your children's education. That is one of the things that we talk about in establishing your trust estate is your relationships, right? Your children have a relationship with the father and the mother. And, the parents have a dual responsibility, right, as trustees over the child until they're able to manage their own affairs. So, a lot of this is taken care of as far as how to manage those things and still maintain full subject matter jurisdiction over what you're talking about. In this case, your children's education. Okay. And, even if you registered your child for school, and I say the child, it's not the child. You're registering a straw man, a legal fiction into the public. That can be operated at arm's length. Okay. So if you needed to have your kids go to public school, it's not a problem. Okay. The issue is do they have authority over the child? Right. When I was going to school as a kid, some of these schools, they used to do corporal punishment. It's like, okay, really? And I was a 6 foot tall, 180 pound 12-year-old. I had a gym teacher put his hands on me and I knocked him on his butt,
Tried to give you the strap.
Yeah, he was poking me in my chest. I told him, nobody touches my father. Don't even do this. I let you. But as far as again, you keep the authority, the subject matter jurisdiction over that name and how it's administrated. Okay, you're not leaving that to those teachers in the school or the school board or the county commissioner's office or the state board of education for that matter. Because that's the trust that you create when you register them into those entities, those public entities. So again,
they're also speaking to the children privately, saying, and not to scare anybody, but just so that your children at school are being told, if you want this vaccination for whatever, like different things, not only COVID, but different things too. You don't have to tell your parents, and we won't.
Way.
Oh, yes way. My grandson went to get something, I forget, to play soccer at a higher level. And his father said, no, I don't know what palinoma or something. I don't know what it's called. But anyway, my son-in-law said, no, thank you. We don't want that. And the nurse took my grandson, who was like 14 at the time, into the room by himself. And she said, we don't have to tell your parents. You can get this if you want it. So just so that that's what they're doing in the schools and in the government health education.
She's lucky she didn't get her head chopped off.
Well, the thing is that they're doing it without the parents knowing, because they're telling the children, we'll keep this secret from you. Now, I know this for a fact from my grandson. And my grandson said to her, to get her to back off of him, okay, I'll talk with my parents about it. He knew bloody well he wasn't going to get it, but there was no other way to get her to back off because she was applying so much pressure.
Yeah.
And of course, you can learn how to defend that. There are ways you can hold them accountable. When they start doing this behind your back, you can go after them, and it's very powerful. But that's by the third course. But setting up your trust and understanding that relationship and what you're doing is really important, because from there you need your base. You need your basement in before you can build this first floor, and then you can defend it. But we have to do something extraordinary, not what everyone else is doing. We need to do something different to claim our own rights, and our rights are there. They are absolutely there, and these people are doing things legally, but they're not doing things lawfully. And when we enforce equity, this is where our power comes from, and there's a whole another side of the legal system that we can engage and force our will on these trustees, public trustees.
And it's important to acknowledge that not like there are two parent incomes to support a family. It requires two parent incomes to support most families today. They've set it up that way. So it's so that they can get your children away from you. So I have been saying, and my children are in their 40s, I've been saying for all this time, school is just babysitting. Well, it's more than babysitting. Yeah, it's more than just babysitting, but it is getting them away from the parents. So now that they have families needing to have both parents working outside of the home, you need babysitting, and it's not cheap. And if you're working for some corporate and you're going away from the house every day, you can't. You're not able to look after your children all day long. So I get.
Lynn.
Yes.
Greetings, Lynn. I just want to chime in the conversation. My name is Dwayne. We have to remember that the family is not just the immediate family, the mother, the father, and the children. You have to remember the grandparents, the uncles, the aunts. So this whole trust structure is about building the family unit, getting back to that place where we were before they took it from us, before they taught us how to be separate, to the same school system. All right? So
I agree.
This trust structure, setting up your trust estate for your family is building a dynasty for generations and bringing back the governance, the mission statement, the vision statement, your constitution for your family. All right. So it's a way of life, is renewing the mind and taking back that control of what came from you and what was granted to you from by the creator, the balance of the universe.
I totally agree with you. But at the same time, we have to start from where we are. And for this, this mom of young children, I acknowledge where you are. If you are working and you can't homeschool your children, then yes.
That's my question. I would love to homeschool the kid. Will this process help me manage my estate so that I don't have to work outside of the home and I can get the full accounting? That's pretty much the question.
Okay.
Can I be free that I don't have to work and be financially supported from managing the estate?
And I will answer that. I see right where you're going. So getting that full accounting, getting them to convey the rights, the titles, do that accounting, and be able to get the securities and things that you were talking about. I will say that the process to create and set up and administrate is simple, okay? But it's not easy. And the reason is because those that are guarding that are corrupt, okay? But that does not mean, we've got one in our group who actually killed the straw man, got a EIN number, an employer identification number for the estate from from the Social Security Administration with letters of administration, okay? Didn't take a whole lot, okay? And that's something that you're looking to have. If you got letters of administration for the estate, for the dead entity, right? They've acknowledged your right to administrate that estate for that straw man.
Oh, yeah.
Then it's just a matter of going in and sending the notices, requesting the accounting, requesting the administrative records that have been kept, and having them send that over to you, a nice little package. I mean, as far as waiting around for that, we've got a very industrious group. There's lots of ways that you can earn revenues from home. I mean, I'm not sure what you do for a living now, but I get this question all the time. And ultimately, that's the goal, right? When Egypt left, when Israel left Egypt, right? And they were freed from their slavery, they took everything with them, all the wealth of Egypt. And that, okay, it was slavery, yes. They were indentured by covenant. They sold themselves into slavery for a time. It just was not the time that they wanted. And for as long as they wanted. And they didn't recognize their own rights, right? But eventually they left, and they left with everything. When I set up this course, obviously when I was, this is the same question I get all the time, because it was the first one that I had way back when, or one of the first. I hated paying utilities and taxes and all this other junk. There had to be a way. And I was doing A for V back in the late 80s and early 90s when it actually worked, before there was computers and these HJR 192 and, all of these little remedies that used to work, but, they've moved them around in the code to a place where, it may or may not work, depending on, how you administrate. In trust, we do it a whole different way. We do it a whole different way. Yes, that's the goal, is to answer your question. Simply, yes, that's the goal. Again, is the process simple? Yes. Is it easy? No, because you're dealing with corrupt trustees. But that's where the third course comes in, right? First part's to administrate. Third part is to hold them accountable. So you may have to take some things all the way to court. I've got a case for someone who's been, protecting their child from the jab since 2020, because the father of the child wanted it jabbed, but he abandoned them. And we've got a case still going in the Federal Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. And they've gone through this process. I became a trustee of their trust so that I can actually go in and actually fight this matter in the courts and bring this matter to literally, all we're looking for is letters of administration. There's easier ways to do it than the courts, not when you're being tracked, for taking your own child. But yeah, there's lots of different ways to deal with this in an equitable way. To get the letters of administration is the key. And at that point, just like Candido, who is in our group, he's got letters of administration from the Social Security Administration. Those letters are just as good as the court's letters, and he can administrate contracts and collapse trusts in any department in the country now, because the main one is done. He probated it, killed the straw person. There's other ways. You can bankrupt the straw man. You can go bankrupt and get, I'm getting too far ahead of myself. There are plenty of remedies. We discuss a lot of things through the course. This was kind of an introduction to, what we're working with and how we do things. I am going to end up wrapping it up. I hope that the question and answer session.
David, Jacqueline had a question. Brother Haggai here was trying to tell me her microphone is not working. I tried to get her to type it in the regular chat. I don't know if she did, but she has a question. If she or she
Go
did.
ahead and ask it if you have it there. Do you have her question?
David, it's got to do with the payment of I believe of the course, about the course 1, course 2. There's a message in the main chat group.
Okay, I'll address that.
2K offer in USD for phase 1, or will the discount be applied for the remaining 2 phases after completion of phase 1?
Nope, it'll go towards establishing your trust estate, and so if you're interested in the course, send an email to afreemaninbabylon@gmail.com. Go to the bulletproofsolutions.org website and sign up as a free member. I'll get that email when you sign up as a free member. And anybody who is on the call or is hearing this recording that would like a chance to check out the whole site as a platinum member, I will update that membership when I get the email, and you'll have full access. At that point, you can get in there and take a look at the courses. The discount, what I'll be doing is, so if you want to sign up for the course, sign up. When you check out, do pay offline. Then send me an email saying that you'd like to pay offline and that you were here for the Establishing Your Trust Estate course. And I will acknowledge that and apply the discount and give you a link to make the payment. And then I'll open up the course for you. Hopefully that answers your question.
Incredible. Thank you, David, so much for having us.
Yes, my pleasure. Again, we're going to have another one on administrating your trust estate. We're going to cover a lot more topics on that as far as the second course on Monday, the 27th at 6 o'clock. Hope all of you guys can make it there. And I hope you enjoyed the call tonight. Thank you for being here.
Booyah!
Thank you.
I will be putting the, my pleasure. I'm going to put the recording up here. We'll put the recording in the group here in a few minutes.
Thank you very much for your time, David, and everyone that participated.